everyone in the world now has access to Sora2, and we just built this AI system to make full use of arguably the best visual model that we've ever seen to date. If you want videos with no watermarks, without needing an invite code, using your product or character for commercial purposes, and if you want your videos to be created on Autopilot and even posted to socials automatically. Because if you missed it, Sora2 has pretty much completely changed visual media forever. Media accounts and faceless channels are growing at a rate we never really saw before, with this account, for example, getting millions of views just with one video a day ago. And now brands are creating content to advertise their products, like this TikTok shop ad that got 6.5 million views and 600,000 likes in getting serious traction and revenue by promoting their product with AI. So in this video, I'll teach you how this system works, including 3 important use cases and some expert tips that the AI space has discovered after hundreds of collective hours of testing to take you from beginner to pro with using Sora2. And remember, the videos you see here are the worst that they'll ever be. AI is moving quite fast, and demand for automation skills and using these models is also accelerating. So learning how to build these systems, which are all no-code anyway, so they are easier than ever, is one of the most worthwhile skills that can set you up for success. Let's get started. Hey, if you're new here, my name is Jay. I spent a decade in creative and marketing work and half a decade leading data teams, and now founded my AI agency and also RoboNuggets, our education arm, where we have several hundred members, all AI practitioners across the globe. And here our mission is to make creating with AI easy to learn regardless what your background is. With a wealth of AI lessons that most people join for, but most members stay because of the community that we have built. And like always, to make this lesson easy, I've organized this workflow into steps, and I'll also be running through it in detail so that you understand the principles of how it was built. So as mentioned in the intro, Sora2 is now available for anyone to use, and later I'll show how you can access it directly. But for now, I'll just show you quickly how this system works, which would let you pretty much automate Sora2 for any niche or any product that you are creating for. And by the way, this automation, we built it in n8n, which if you're completely new, n8n is a no-code automation tool similar to Make.com or Zapier, but you can see how popular it's gotten because of the way it integrates these AI models. And the great thing about n8n is if you need a shortcut and you're a bit more advanced, if you're part of the community, I'll just upload this template in there and you can import that template into n8n and that will load this workflow for you automatically. But if you're a beginner, don't worry because I'll be going through this workflow node by node as well. So once you have this system loaded, the only setup that you really need is this master prompt node, which if we open that, you'll see that just contains a few fields that you need to fill in. And for this first use case, what we're going to do is try and create some content for this product that we featured in the intro. So in this field, you can see if I expand this, you'll see that what we're asking this system to do is create some TikTok videos promoting this sun hat while saying that it's 50% off today at TikTok shop. And then since we're feeding this to an agent, this can be as detailed as you want. So we just included some more details of the product, which we just copied from this product page here. We declare how many videos we want to create. In this case, we want 3. We want the aspect ratio to be vertical. And we also provide here our image reference, which if the image is already uploaded on the web, most of the time what you can do is just do a right click and copy image address and then paste it here. Or if you need a place to upload it, I usually recommend cloudinary.com because it's free to sign up. And when you go to your assets folder, you can just upload images in here and again do a right click. And if you copy this URL, you'll be able to use that as your reference image. And then finally, you can see we have a field called master prompt here. So if we expand this, you'll see this is a prompt for a UGC video that we tested previously for another product. I'll show more later how we use this in a bit, but essentially this master prompt would be the reference prompt that your AI agent will be using to craft the final video prompts that we're going to pass to Sora2. And so you can see how it works. What I'll do is just execute this workflow just to simulate how this runs when it's scheduled. And when that's done, our AI agent now crafted the prompts, which was loaded into this Google Sheet, which if we head there, you can see our system just generated these video prompts that we're going to pass to Sora in a minute. And the reason why it's useful to just take this as an initial step is so that you can double check these prompts before you pass it on to Sora2. But once you're satisfied with those prompts, what we can do is to just change this execute workflow to run from our trigger part 2, which is going to be this one. And now if we execute this workflow, it's going to run this second stream at the bottom that will pass those prompts as well as our image reference into Sora2 and then update our Google Sheet once it is done. And once that's finished running, you'll see those 3 videos are now done and we can now watch them in full.
So you know those days hiking when your face feels like it's melting? Not anymore. Check out this hat. Solar fans, changeable speeds, and it's waterproof. I just grabbed mine for 50% off at TikTok shop.
Okay, I have to show you this. Look at my new hat. Too many fans, solar powered, and it actually cools you while hiking. Not kidding. Just tap for 3 speeds and instant breeze. Game changer.
Okay, you lot, how mad is this? It's a sun hat, but it's got actual fans built in, powered by the sun.
And there you go. Just like that, you have 3 UGC ads that you can use to promote this sun hat. And this product is actually quite difficult to generate because it's not something that you just have your AI actor hold in their hands. And so the fact that Sora2 can integrate this hat into the scene seamlessly is really quite impressive. Now, obviously, there are still limitations, which I'll go through in a bit. But for now, I'll go through this automation so that you can understand how it works under the hood. Because once I go through it, you'll also find some of the best practices that people are finding now with regard to prompting Sora2, which is just a useful skill for you to have in general. So starting with part 1 here, this trigger node is just a basic scheduler. So if we open that, you can see we have it running once per day, which is useful if you need regular content. And when it runs, it just loads your master prompt here, which are these fields that you need to set up once, so that you can pass them to your AI agent that will create the prompts. But before we do that, we just have this analyze image step, which if we open that, here you can more clearly see n8n's design of working, where here at the left, you always have your inputs coming from previous nodes. And then here at the right is the output of this node that you are configuring, which you can set up through these fields. And what this analyze image node does is that we just have it connected to our OpenAI account, which we talked through in the community as well as in previous videos on how to set up. And what we're doing here is just analyzing the image using ChatGPT using this very detailed ask, which if you read through that, that's essentially asking ChatGPT to summarize whatever we have in our image reference if we provide it. And that image we provide in this URL field. And this green text is just an expression where we link this image reference into this field. And so in this step ran, what we got is this very detailed description of the image that we provided here. And the reason why we need to do that is because we need to feed that description into our AI agent as well, so that it has context of what that reference image contains. And so now if we open this AI agent, this is a lot of text, but there's essentially just 2 elements that we define here. One is the user prompt here, which is sort of like the message that you send to ChatGPT, which if we expand this, you'll see that what we're doing is just providing context for the AI agent on what it is that we're asking from it. So if you see the result here on the right, we're asking it to give us 3 ideas about this topic that we set in the beginning. We gave it context on the aspect ratio that we want. And if we scroll down, this is also where we are feeding it our master reference prompt. And also at the very bottom, the image reference URL, as well as the description of what that image contains. And so these are all green text because they are pretty much linked to this master prompt node that we set up in the very beginning. And so when we gave it that ask, you can see the output that it provided is indeed 3 videos, which if we unfurl each of those, that contains not just the prompt, but also a title, a caption, as well as the aspect ratio and image reference properly structured in here. So how did the agent know how to structure its output? Well, that's all contained within the system guideline here at the bottom, which is pretty much the guideline that instructs this AI agent's role. So if we expand this, you'll see we have a pretty robust system prompt here where we are being clear on our ask from it, some guidance on what to do and what not to do, some examples to guide it even further. And here in the notation, you can see we're asking for a JSON or JavaScript object notation format. So whenever you see these brackets and braces, that's pretty much what they are. And that is also a big reason why we have the output of this agent properly structured, which we need later on. And finally, we have the tools so that this agent knows what tools it has access to, which I'll also show in a bit. But before we leave this system prompt, part of the reason why this AI agent is so flexible for pretty much any use case is because if you have a winning prompt or a master prompt that you feed it, then the agent can just learn from how that prompt is structured so that it can apply the best practices from what you provided it into its future ideas as well. And so if you remember, when we set up our master reference prompt in the beginning, the reason why this agent's output matches that closely is because of our guidance in the system prompt itself. I'll be also showing later how you can get best practice prompts like this, but just as best practice, ideally you want to structure your prompts as data formats similar to this. And there's several examples of this. JSON format is one of them, but as long as you have these parameters like dialogue, character, setting, and then you have the values for each of those, then that would really help these visual models like Sora to properly understand what you mean. And so with the user prompt and system guideline setup, what are now these tools that we just gave our AI agent access to? Well, you can see them here at the top where we're basically giving our AI agent its chat model, which is pretty much its brain. We have this think tool, which is unique to n8n, that just allows our AI agent to think about its output before finalizing its response, which we're finding is good to increase quality. And then we have this structured output parser tool, which if we open this, you'll see this is where we are declaring the format that we want, title, caption, prompt, aspect ratio. And that is a big reason why our AI agent gave us some cleanly organized prompts here at the right. And then finally, we added this sheet tool, which when we open this, you can see this is connected to our Google Sheet from earlier. And the reason why it's good to have our AI agent have access to this is because it can look at this Google Sheet and check that none of the ideas that are already here will be repeated, which is very useful if, for example, you're using this to create content for a Faceless video account, for example. Now with those prompts prompts created, we then need to just log them into our Google Sheet. And to do that, we just need this split out node, because in n8n, the way our AI agent provides its output is via just one grouped item. And so we're just ungrouping this scenes parameter and unbundling them into these 3 items, which we now pass into our Google Sheet node, which again is connected to our Google Sheet document. And you can see we're just passing on the title, the caption, the video prompt, and so on, which is how this system has loaded our prompts here on the right. Now, with those prompts finalized, how did we now then automate the passing of those prompts into Sora2? Well, here at the second part, you can see we just start with another schedule trigger. And it's useful to separate this because let's say if you're running this automation to auto-publish to social channels, which I'll also show in a bit, then you can set this schedule trigger to run, let's say 3 times per day, so that it has its own schedule to follow, while this prompt creation process can run, let's say, once per day or once per week to create the ideas for the prompts that you can check on a week-by-week basis. But this second stream, how it works is that first it gets our prompts and inputs from our Google Sheet. So if we open this, we just have it connected once again to that Google Sheet document where we are getting the rows where it says that the production status is set to create. And so when this node ran, you can see we just got 3 items in here, which mirrors those 3 rows that our AI agent created the video prompts for. And we pass all of those inputs into this node called an HTTP request, which if we open that, if you're completely new, this is the primary way by which n8n can call on third-party tools, making it super flexible. And what we're basically doing is posting a request for Sora2 to create our videos for us. And here you can see the service that we are using is Key.ai, which if you're new, Key.ai is basically an AI model aggregator. So they're sort of like an app store for AI models. And if you go to the API market, you'll find Sora2 in there. And here in the playground is where you can actually use Sora2 directly without needing an invite code or without needing to be in the USA. And also just yesterday after OpenAI's Dev Day, where they launched Sora2's official API, the guys at KAI also updated their Sora2 integration so that we get these videos without a watermark. Now to use this in n8n and in any automation, you need to read through this API section, which we've already done. And so to use it, you just need to post your request to this URL. You need to set up your credentials so that you can declare to KAI that you do have access, which we showed in the community and in previous videos on how to do. And something unique we did for this create Sora request is if you go to the body and open it, this pretty much contains the structure of the request that KAI expects for us to send to them. So very simply, you can see we are sending the model that we want to use, which is image to video in this case. And we are also sending the image reference here at the bottom. But the reason why this is unique and dynamic is because this expression, you can just copy it and paste it to ChatGPT if you want to learn how it works. But what it does in JavaScript language is that it uses the image to video model if you have an image reference provided, and it uses text to video if in case you don't. So this one will show in a bit. So it's very flexible. And later we'll provide an example where we're using text to video instead of image to video. You also see that we have this image URL fully dynamic. So what that means is if we provided an image reference, then this piece of script just adds your image reference in here. And if in case you didn't provide an image reference, then this whole section will be gone and this HTTP request node will still work. So you'll see that more in a bit. But basically when this node ran, if we shuffle through this, you'll see that we passed 3 prompts to this model, which is why we got 3 successes here where KAI indicated that they are now working for those videos to be made. And so while those are generating, we just have a wait node in here. So I've just set this to 10 seconds. And when that duration has passed, we try to check through this get video step if our video is now available. So this is as per KAI's documentation as well, where we are trying to get our video from this URL, where we are also passing it our task ID. And you can see that task ID was given to us by KAI when we made our request to create a video. And this task ID is unique for your generation. Now, if you look at this, you can see that this node ran 19 times. And the reason why is because if we go to the very first run in here, the first time that we try to get our video from this URL, you'll see that KAI is saying that our video is still generating, which is why after this, we have a switch node where if we zoom in, you can see what we're doing is if the video is still in progress, we just loop back and wait a bit for that video to finish. If it's already successful, we proceed to this step. And if it results to an error, then it proceeds to this step, which I'll also show. But the way this switch node was set up is that we just set up some routing rules in here. And we're just checking if this state attribute that KAI is giving us, if it's already saying success, then we just proceed to the success step. But if the state says waiting or generating, then we just proceed with the in progress step first. And then here at the bottom, you can see we have a fallback output. If in case neither of those are true, then we just map to our fallback output and classify that as an error. And so you can see on the 19th run of this switch node, we now have a success state, and KAI gave us this pretty long output, but within this, you can find the MP4 file already. So this is the video file that we now pass into this log video final step, which if we open this, again, that is just connected to our Google Sheet account. And what this node has done is update our production status to done through this column and also load the final video output into this column. So you can see we have these MP4 files in here, which if you click these, that would be the videos that we previewed together earlier. And if in case that video generation failed for some reason, it will just map to this other node, which if we open that, that's still connected to our Google Sheet account. But instead of marking our production status as done, we just mark it as error, and we provide the fail message from KAI as a result. And this is important because obviously Sora2 still has its own limitations. And a big one, if you've used Sora2 recently, would be their content restrictions. So what's good about KAI's integration, if we look through their update email here from yesterday, is that now their error messages for Sora2 are a bit more detailed. So they now tell you what caused OpenAI to reject your prompt. And so for this use case where you're trying to promote a product, one of the most common roadblocks that you'll get is if you're trying to pass in an image reference of people along with your product. And so if you remember earlier, what we actually passed as an image is just the product itself. If, for example, we pass another image that contains a person like this will most likely get rejected. And so unfortunately, because of that limitation, if you want a specific person to be promoting your product, Sora2 won't be your go-to model in this case because of OpenAI's restrictions. And if that's something that you're after, at this point, I think 1.2.5 from Alibaba would be your best bet, and you can view this previous lesson on how to use it. The other thing to note about Sora2 is that when you use it for UGC videos, the way we did just now, is that the very first frame will just show your product here, but after that, it will immediately cut to the video itself. So in practice, we just clip that out because right now Sora2 doesn't have a feature to remove that automatically yet. So that first use case is if you're using Sora2 for commercial purposes. But now, how do you use this automation to create faceless videos? And how do you extend this system so that it auto-publishes to the social media channel of your choice? And like I mentioned in the intro, with Sora2 arriving, there's now several faceless channels that are growing quite rapidly because of the quality that this model generates. So this is just one example by Sasha from our community. Well, just like before, the only setup that you need to do is through this master prompt node, which for this example, you'll see that we inputted our idea as follows. So we're going to test it for some POV historical videos. We're going to do 3 vertical videos. This time we're not going to pass on an image reference, so it's going to be text to video in this case. And this round, we're going to give it this prompt structure. So if we expand this, you can see we have the main prompt here as an example. But apart from that, we're also passing in scenes. And once we generate this, you'll see it in action. But essentially what we've found is that Sora2 is really good at following timestamps. So if you declare it like this, it will be quite precise in generating those 3 scenes for you in the timestamps that you want them in, which I first heard from Martin from our community. So kudos to him for putting this in my radar. But with that set up, we can now run this workflow to simulate how it would work once it's scheduled. And when that finished running, that now loaded our 3 videos in our Google Sheet for us to watch.
Marcus, you made it.
I wouldn't miss it. The floor's as warm as the water today.
Sit, friend. We've kept a place for you.
Cup of Molsum?
Gladly, to the afternoon. صباح الخير يا أخي.
صباح النور.
السوق مزدحم اليوم.
أجل مبارك عليك.
النار بدأت تهدأ أضف بعض الحطب.
حاضر.
سيكون العشاء جاهز.
So as you can see, the quality of that is really good, despite it being a one-shot. In fact, if you just compare it to a channel that we featured just a few months ago and just view some of these videos from before, you'll see how far AI has gotten in just a span of a few months. And the other thing to mention is that, like we instructed in the system, we generated 3 scenes for each of these videos. And if we open this HTTP request and check the request that we sent via this body section, this time our expression defaulted to text to video because we didn't send in an image reference. And we also didn't add this image URL parameter, which is how we're able to send a request to KAI that is still valid and accepted. Now, if you're a beginner, I actually suggest not to auto-publish these videos yet to TikTok or Instagram, because if you're not used to warming up your account, it may result to you being shadow banned. But if you're a bit more advanced, I've actually included in this template this set of nodes that will let you auto-post to any of these channels using a tool called Blotato. And so to auto-publish, you just need to extend this and connect it to these Blotato nodes and just disable those nodes that you are not using. And in case you want a deeper look on how we set this up, you can just watch this short tutorial on how to use Blotato and set up these nodes in n8n. Now, the final use case I wanted to show is actually an important one where I think Sora2 will really excel at in the months to come, and that is taking your concept art into a proper animation just within seconds. And so for this example, we're passing along this image reference into this system to create a video like this. And I'll show in a bit how we got this animation using the AI system. But the reason why I think this use case is quite important is because with Sora2's capabilities, I think it points to a future where if you are part of a team who has a concept for a video game or for a movie, or if you're an ad agency and you have a concept for a TV commercial, let's say for your client, if you're in the creative field, you always have some sort of concept art before you go to the production stage. But the key difference on the way we work in the future is that the concept art or storyboards that you have, you can feed it into Sora2 and almost immediately generate concept videos that your team or your client can provide feedback on before you work on the actual produced item itself. So obviously, again, there's still limitations at this point. The video length being limited to around 10 seconds will probably require you to generate a few examples. But remember, this is the worst that it'll ever get. Like if you just think about that POV videos example, in a few months, I wouldn't be surprised if OpenAI or Google launches a model that can allow us to generate longer and longer clips. And so before we leave this use case, I just wanted to show how we set it up because that contains a final tip that I think would be useful for you as well. So if we open our master prompt node again, you'll see under the image reference that we are just pointing to this image. We've asked for 3 horizontal videos as well. And for the main idea direction, if we expand this, you'll see I gave it a bit more guidance here around beginning all prompts with this piece of text, take this character and create a video. And then we'll be using the master reference prompt to make a unique one in the same style for this character. And if we open this master prompt, you'll see this is quite a detailed prompt that I actually got from Sora2 itself. So right now I'm in Sora, and something unique that OpenAI has done is that remember, Sora is also a social media platform where this person already has 17,000 followers just from around a week since Sora launched. And if you look at what they're sharing here, these are really good examples if you are interested in animation or finding out what prompts work best for this specific niche. And for this video in particular, they actually shared the prompt that they used to generate this clip. So what I did is to just copy that prompt into here to use it as inspiration for our future generations, which is why we got a pretty good anime style in that concept video that we previewed earlier. And if you're curious on costs, I just updated this summary we had from earlier. And right now, I believe Key AI is still the cheapest that you can access Sora2. This cost did increase from their watermark version, but it's still by far the cheapest model available to us if you compare it with VO3 or 1.2.5, which are the other video models that also produce audio. And also as per KAI, they intend to add a lower cost version that still has the watermark if cost is your priority. And they'll also be adding Sora2 Pro this week. So when that is available, we'll be updating our template for sure, which if you need a copy of this template, you can just find it in our community if you're already a member. And if not, see if that's for you just in the link below. There are several more lessons here around creating with AI and automation. And myself plus our members also post regularly paid opportunities and partnership collaborations in here if that is something that you are after. But that's it for this one. I'll see you guys next time. Thank you.